So all around the world, there are fanatics who collect Kylie stuff. Some have been collecting Kylie stuff literally since the Locomotion days. I'm joined by Frank Longo down there in Melbourne, Australia. G'day, Frank. How are you?
Hey, how you going?
Are you one of those people who've been collecting from way back then? Or did you come on board a bit later?
Well, the story goes, I guess I wouldn't have called myself a Kylie fan back then. I was into pretty much music that was, top 40 stuff. When she came along with the song Locomotion, I thought it was a great track. I thought she was great. Actually followed her sister's career on Young Talent. So my sister used to go to school there. So we used to bump into them every now and then at that training school. So that was the interest and where it started.
That's for Johnny Young Talent School, right?
Yeah, that's one in Richmond, Lennox Street. So my mum used to take my sister there and drag me along when I was younger, but I was a bit starstruck at that time because there were quite a few famous people. And I did actually get to meet Kylie, I think it was about the Henderson Kids timings before she released a single. So she had red hair, it was ages ago. And that's who I knew she was initially. So when she released the single Locomotion, I took particular interest in that because first of all, it's great. The song was great. And also the fact that she was Danny's sister, Kylie. The 12-inch of Locomotion had a great remix. So I thought I'd buy that. And then as soon as she started doing the Stock Aitken and Waterman stuff, we saw that there was more coming. And that piqued my interest even more. And that's when I started collecting the singles. I was very interested in the way she was marketed in the PWL days. So I have her CDs, the later CDs, post PWL, but I focused predominantly on the Stock Aitken and Waterman stuff purely because of the way they were marketing. So I'm from a design background and I'd always had interest in design and hence why I was very interested in the sleeve design, like what you mentioned with your story. That was definitely something that I connected to straight away, the sleeve design, looking at those picture sleeves and also the remixes and how they packaged them and then marketed. And I think that...
Because those sleeves represented the songs, didn't they, Frank?
Yeah.
When I think of the songs, I can remember all the covers and the colours and the fonts, and I know that's weird, and I don't do it deliberately. It's just, for me, it was that package, yeah?
Well, that's a conscious decision from the marketing, from the record company to promote her. So, in essence, Kylie was developed as a brand. So, yes, she was an artist. Yes, she had pop sensibilities, but the way the record company, they were quite clever because they knew that she was a very marketable brand very quickly, especially with the release of I Should Be So Lucky in an international scale. So they were quite clever about how they remain consistent with their titling, and you'll see, like with her first album, you'll notice the titles all have a very same consistent look.
Yes.
The images that they used had a particular style, and that was because how they wanted to market her. And all that I found fascinating. Because
it is fascinating, isn't it? Yeah. I loved it from when they released the Kylie album itself, that font. It felt like, and it probably was, manufactured exclusively for her. I love that font.
Yeah, so the first one is what we mentioned is It's No Secret.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if you can see the cover that well there.
We can.
So with this particular record, this was meant to be her fifth single released off the first album.
Yep.
After I Still Love You. The record company had actually gone ahead and invested in creating a video that she shot in
North Queensland.
Yeah, that's right, Port Douglas. You can see there. That's one of the shots.
Yep.
That's the back cover.
Yep.
Cool. So they went ahead and released.
Just show us the back cover again.
There you go. So it's just one of the. I think it's the pier, one of the main.
Yeah.
Port there.
Included in the video clip.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you'll see these are actually segments from the actual video clip themselves.
Yep.
There's
that's
one
the train station, I think.
About.
Yes, that's the font. That's it.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying?
Oh, that's the train station where she's at. Yep.
Yeah. So this cover was obviously designed to promote the single. But what happened is during that time, Kylie's success had catapulted overseas, and there were some decisions being made about what they should do. PWL, Stock Aitken and Waterman, knew that they had to ride this wave. She had been highly successful, and they thought, we need to get back into the studio and write some more stuff with Kylie to get some, obviously to promote her next album and get some more sales going. So they made a decision to withdraw this because they had already started working on Hand on Your Heart. So what had happened is, while other territories like America and Japan had released It's No Secret, Australia originally planned to release it as well. But because of the timings, and Hand on Your Heart was ready for release, they basically thought, well, why don't we just promote her new album? You know, and then
Now,
obviously...
can I ask you about that? Can I almost challenge you a little bit on it? Because I could be wrong. It's No Secret did get a release in Australia. Because, I mean, we got the video clip. It was on the Kylie videos.
Yeah,
I've got
as a video,
I've got the single of it, and it doesn't look the same as that. Are we maybe only talking about New Zealand where it was withdrawn, or was it Australia?
In particular, the 12-inch and the 7-inch, from my sources and what I understand, is that the 7-inch and the 12-inch were when they were issued, they were meant to be issued to the public as a commercial release, but were withdrawn because of the fact that that Kylie had this new single coming out. Right. So there was a conscious decision to quickly grab what was there in stock or in the record company.
Oh, I see.
Withdraw them and take them away.
So what you're saying is it did get into the public domain, but withdrawn meaning
issued, but they weren't meant to actually be released as a single. So they prepared the video, and I think the video was actually being played on some video stations.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a great video too. I love it. It's probably one of Kylie's most natural videos. You know, I mean, there's no studio to it. It's literally her, and she looks amazing. She's tanned. She looks so North Queensland holiday. And Sheraton Mirage is where some of it was. Oh, I think
that's right.
She was staying there, at least I know that, and I think definitely some of that's included in the video. It's where she walks to the pool, looks very miserable, and then walks out of shot again. I remember.
That's right, in true Kylie form. But
lots of angst.
Well, I actually, when I saw that video, the reason why I liked it is it actually employed a bit of a storyline, and that was, I think, also playing on that whole thing of Kylie being an actress, you know, coming from Neighbours and all that. So they, you know...
And Frank, what about the reference too? It was the first time Kylie referenced herself, Locomotion, right at the beginning in the bar scene. Remember? Before the song actually plays? I loved that. I love it when she does it. She's gone on to do that many times throughout her career. All right, so let's go back to the product in front of you. Just hold it up. So this was withdrawn, and it's a 12-inch
So this was released,
single.
Apparently... Yeah, so it's a 12-inch single. It has an extended version of It's No Secret.
Okay, so 2 tracks on it. I can read extended and instrumental, right?
Correct, yeah.
And now, how much do you reckon this one's worth, Frank, if you can put prices on things?
Well, the value, you'd be looking at about $1,000.
Oh my God. Okay, and if I wanted to find one and I had $1,000 to spend on it, could I find it? Is it easy to find? I'm imagining
it's not that easy to track down. You'll see that the 7-inch single, there's more of them around. For some reason, they've pressed a few more of those, but the 12-inch single is incredibly difficult.
How did you get your hands on it?
I actually found it in a dealer in New Zealand. So
for how much?
On display.
Did he know what he was sitting on, this dealer?
He did. He had a price on it that was, if he didn't know, it was a lot of wishful thinking. It was quite rare. Wow. So the item itself, especially if it's in mint condition, you would be paying, like I said, close to $1,000, if not more. But there are, when they do turn up, not all of them are in great condition. They can be a little bit scrappy, purely because it's an old 12-inch and there weren't that many in circulation.
Yours is mint, isn't it? And you've obviously kept it, you keep them in these special sleeves, right?
Yeah, they're actually, I keep them stored well too. So you can see the record's not in there, and there's a reason for that. There's the record's stored separately. And that's the reason why it doesn't really have any ring wear or any buckling, because records, as you know...
they make that shape on the... Yeah, so you take the vinyls out and store them separate, do you?
Yeah. Wow. So basically what that does is it prevents them from having any more wear or creasing. So this item should remain pretty clean pretty much for as long as I keep it.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just a tactic I was taught by another dealer to
Clever. You're so spot on, because I even have 2 Hearts, the red vinyl, which isn't worth that much, but they're already doing that. I didn't think to take the vinyl out. See, I'm not a true collector.
Yeah. So most people don't realise that. So, and that's the other thing about finding rare Kylie stuff. A lot of her Australian singles were thin paper sleeves. So if they've been sitting in people's collections with records stacked next to them as well, they will wear after a while. So it's quite tricky finding them in mint condition.
Wow.
Amazing.
What have we got next? This is fascinating. I'm learning so much from you, Frank. Here we go.
Okay, so the Swedish 12-inch of Locomotion.
Oh, get out.
So this is there were 3 countries in the world that had the version of Locomotion that we had. So we were quite lucky as Australia to be the first country to have that original Australian production of Locomotion.
Which is better, by the way. Sorry, Pete Waterman.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Tim. I think that was...
Juggity jug. How dare Pete Waterman take that out? Sanitize it for the UK market. Anyway.
And I always felt that the PWL version was good, but it was almost like a second-rate version of the Locomotion that we all loved and enjoyed in Australia.
Exactly.
But we weren't the only country.
Yeah.
So with 2 other countries in the world that actually had our version. So pretty much internationally, Locomotion was huge when it did really well overseas. It was the PWL version, but we have the Australian version, which you mentioned the sleeve earlier that you saw that your sister had. But this is the Swedish edition, which is a totally unique sleeve. So it appears like this in Sweden and in Italy. So Italy had a 7-inch single that had this cover, and Sweden had this cover. So. And they actually had the version that you're talking about there, the Locomotion Chugga-Motion version.
So what, the Australian version got called the Chugga-Motion mix in some countries. Interesting. Because to us, it's just for Locomotion. And can you move that in a little bit more?
Yeah, sorry.
So that's all right. So then on side 2, we've got Getting Closer. Ah, really? Okay. And then the Locomotion. So Glad to Be Alive. Oh, extended Osmix. Wow.
So that's an unreleased. So that's a version that was only released in Sweden and in Italy. So this is what
I'm racking my brain here. I don't think I've heard the extended mix of Getting Closer, unless I heard it on one of those mix CDs that came out around, the early 2000s.
Yeah, they had Getting Closer. I don't think they had the extended.
I don't think they did either.
This is why I was so desperate to track this down early days, because when I heard that this actually had a different B-side track to anywhere else in the world, I thought, well, I really want to get that. So I bought the Italian 7-inch, which had the same picture sleeve, and then the Swedish 12-inch for that reason.
Wow.
So these are quite unique and obviously pressed in smaller quantities, being just released in Sweden. So they're quite hard to find, and are, I guess, amongst Kylie collectors, one of the most desired items they'd like to have in their collection.
Can you hold it up a bit, because I'm interested. The Locomotion is often with a hyphen when it's the Australian version, and not when it's the UK. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah.
And here we've got the hyphen. So there you go.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating? Wow. Go Sweden, hey?
I love it.
Do you know how much this one might be worth?
You look in mint condition. I'd say you're looking between $600 to $700, maybe a bit more, depending on the dealer.
Wow.
It'll be well over $500, especially if it's in great condition.
Incredible. Thank you. That is amazing. I love that cover too.
Yes.
Actually, I like it, but it's sort of a bit sloppy too at the same time. Black background, slap on one of those stock. I remember that photo shoot. That would come up in Smash Hits versions of that photo.
That's right. It's a very early Kylie photo. Still, it reminds me very much of the Charlene days of.
Yeah, doesn't it ever? Very, very 80s. Look, is that a big belt I can see around her?
Yes.
Actually, she could bring that back in the She could bring that back in the golden era, Frank.
I think so. Kylie could get away with anything, really.
Yeah, this is true. What's next?
Okay, so the next one, I have a little bit of a story behind that. So, as you can imagine, when there was the mention that Kylie was releasing her much anticipated second album, there's quite a lot of excitement around it. And Hand on Your Heart had been released, and it was great to see a brand new Kylie track that wasn't on the album, or we couldn't get anywhere else. So you had to wait for the album to come out. So there was a bit of excitement around that. So that was released, and then the album was released shortly afterwards. But the follow-up single to that, Wouldn't Change a Thing, was released everywhere in the world in this cover.
Yes.
I think so everybody knows this one.
Because if you're in Australia, you look at that cover and go, that's really foreign, because that's not, for me, that is not the Wouldn't Change a Thing cover. But for everyone else, I'm aware it is. Isn't it a shocking photo, by the way?
Yeah, it is.
Nonetheless.
Like you said, there's a lot of people that probably thought that way in Australia, because I was lucky enough to go and interview the designer, in the art studio of Mushroom Records at the time when they were preparing to release this as a second single.
Right.
So I was able to interview her and have a bit of a discussion about Kylie and the direction that they were choosing for the next single. And the discussion was that Kylie and her management made a conscious decision to want to move away from this typical Charlene-esque.
Charlene, yep.
Yeah, as you know, she wanted to be taken a little bit more seriously as an artist, and obviously move and evolve. So they discussed changing the artwork. So they received this. So they would receive master files and are instructed to repress or reproduce the artwork as it is by guidelines from the record company. So they received this, they had a look at it and said, we're not doing that, we don't like this cover, we're going to change it. So the decision was that the designer would come up with a new concept. There was so much investment in her video, I wouldn't change a thing, and it was a great video. So they thought, well, why don't we get the shots?
Here we go. That's the stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's chalk and cheese.
Isn't it?
So much better.
Too, like, I mean, you look at them, and this is exactly what she did to me. I sat there with my mouth open going, can I get that now? She said, at least for 3 weeks. So I was waiting, bated breath. I wanted to run out of there with a copy. But this is what she did. She said, so what do you like? What do you think? That.
There's no competition, lady.
What a dumb question. So I was mesmerised by it. And that's where it goes back to also the fact that, hey, Australia is showing some real savvy here by marketing Kylie with their own sleeve designs, because we're starting to show that we have our own identity. Our market has a particular expectation of what they expect from Kylie or from artists in our territory, and it's great that we reflected that through our marketing, and luckily Mushroom Records was smart enough to do that. So that's a beautiful cover.
It is a beautiful cover. Can I see the back of both of them?
Absolutely.
So there we go. Yeah. That's right. The lyrics. It just brings back so many memories, Frank, of me on my bed listening to this. My sister telling me to turn it down, and looking at these beautiful. I call them pieces of art. I mean, especially through a teenager's eyes too, because I was only a teenager, and looking at that. Even the movement in that photo, it's not even a spectacular photo now as a semi-professional photographer myself, but back then stared at that. And it was great to have the lyrics, because it's so hard to know the lyrics of Wouldn't Change a Thing. They're very complicated, aren't they? And they actually go to the trouble of putting them all. I remember. I can't read it there, but they do, don't they? I or something.
Yeah, they're going to the trouble of actually showing the reverbing and how to do it properly. Emulate it. That's pretty clever. So there's the back sleeve.
They did the lyrics on this too. Yeah. There you go. She was a big fan of the whistle and the quiet and all that. She's always a pouter, wasn't she, Kylie? Yeah. I don't know what the surgical glove looks like. She's about to conduct a.
I always wondered about that. I just thought,
Kylie the proctologist.
I actually found that sleeve a little bit creepy when I first saw it. The front cover's great. Then I saw the back of it, and I thought, I don't know about that one. So
that would have been good for It's No Secret, wouldn't it? At least the message is clear.
So the Australian single is, once again, you see a lot more of it. It has the same sleeve design, but it's the 12-inch that's rarer. You can pick one of these up for $50 if you're lucky. Some of them go for over $100 if they're in great shape. But they don't appear too often. You'll see the single come up quite a bit, but if you look for the 12-inch, they are a little rarer. And I'm not quite sure why, but like Hand on Your Heart and some of her other sleeves designs, Australian 12-inch singles from this album, come up quite easily. You see them more often, but this one seems to be a little rarer. I thought this was great. This is actually Tears of My Pillow.
This is the one that I don't know why, but my instincts tell me this is the one to be excited about, because this is a US promo, isn't it?
US only promo. So the US actually released Tears on My Pillow, but the only commercial pressing you could get was a 7-inch single that didn't have a picture sleeve. So it didn't come in a picture cover.
Yeah.
And a cast single that replicated this artwork. So this is the promo only, and this is probably the only way you could get this picture sleeve, this and the cast single, for Tears on My Pillow. And you can see there, it's a totally unique cover. Beautiful design.
Just hold it up a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, wow. It's totally unique. I don't even remember the photo shoot. The first time I saw this cover, I was like, I don't, because usually you know the photos that come before
Yes.
and after. This one, I just don't. But she's certainly getting into the bit of a devil you know territory. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it came after
It was round about
Tears on
that.
My Pillow.
I think it was this. It looks like she'd already started styling herself for the American market.
Yeah, just lean
What
that in for us, mate, and hold it still and up a bit. Oh,
I
so yeah, interesting
can't see
font.
how it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Read it for us. What's on the back there? That's not a it's only one track on this, isn't there?
Yeah, so it's just the LP version of Tears on My Pillow.
And that's
So
it.
it's a promo only. This would have been sent to radio stations and the media to promote the new single, basically.
Yeah.
And they were obviously made in real small quantities just to promote the single. What I like is the actual picture CD on there. It's a really
wow.
good CD.
Oh wow.
See the pattern on there?
Yes.
It's got a design. Yeah, and
Geffen. Yeah, that's the record label.
made on the Geffen label, which was her American record company.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty special. So again, and CDs were new really back then. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so am I right? Is this an extremely rare item?
This one was probably the hardest for me to find.
I bet.
It took me quite a few years. I was a bit late with this one purely because, number one, it just never came up. It was really difficult being a promo. It was actually never meant to be released for the public.
Sure.
As you can see there, it says, promo only, not for sale.
Yeah.
So the actual item wasn't readily available, but at the same time, it also cost quite a bit of money. I think I paid about $400 for it or something like that.
I bet it's worth a lot more than that now.
Well, the fact that it doesn't turn up is one thing, but yeah, I think it would be worth a little bit more than that nowadays. I did buy it a few years ago, but if you're lucky, I think for people that are collectors too, sometimes they do their homework and look around and may be able to find it. But this is definitely an item that you have to save a bit of money to track down, and if you're lucky enough to find it, yeah.
This is very, very exciting for me because when I was young and was collecting, there was a place called Central Station Records in Sydney. And it blew my mind. I didn't know it existed. I found it by accident. I went in and they had not just of Kylie, 7-inch sync. I never knew you could get discs so small, 7-inch CD discs.
Oh, right. Yeah,
and they came in this beautiful packaging. Well, when I say beautiful, I was fascinated that it was not your traditional square. They're rectangular. So you're about to walk us through some, and these are really rare, aren't they? Am I right?
Yeah, these are quite hard to get and are expensive. I think the most expensive one, which I'll point out to you, was about $850 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, let's go through it. What have we got?
Yep. So I'll go backwards. So the most recent one from the PWL years was Wouldn't Change. Sorry, Tears on My Pillow.
Yep.
I don't know if you can see that.
So on that, does it have the We Know the Meaning of Love as well, or
it does? It has. It says here, I know the meaning of love, rather than we know the meaning of love. But yeah,
that's for Japanese translation.
Yeah, obviously. So the CD, here's a mini CD that sits in a little case. Whoops, on the top here.
Amazing.
I can show you how it looks just quickly.
Yeah.
Basically, these items. This is what houses the actual mini CDs. So it has a cover that opens up from behind there, and that's how the CDs.
Oh, how nice is that?
Yeah.
Do you know people all around YouTube are going, right? They really are.
Well, I haven't actually done my YouTube video on these yet, which I am going to do because I keep getting requests to do it, but I'll get there. So this is the unique cover for Never Too Late. So this was the only country in the world to have this cover.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen that cover. Oh, what the devil is that? Jeez, there we go. So Never Too Late, Never Too Late again, and then the Kylie Smiley medley, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
So this was an EP. Then you have the standard single edition of that.
Wow.
Yeah, so the EP was that's the one that's worth about $800 if you can track that down.
That's the most rare one, is it?
Yeah, wow. For some reason it's quite rare. Then we have the extended version of Wouldn't Change a Thing.
Just love.
So that was an extended EP there. You can see.
Pick on the back again. Yep.
Yeah, this is the single version. Yeah, that lovely surgical image on the back. Then we have Hand on Your Heart. This is the extended EP. So they were in the habit of releasing two versions of the singles. So they'll do the extended version, which would have, like, this one has Hand on Your Heart, dub version, and I think just another track, B-side track. It's a standard edition.
It's always interesting to me with Hand on Your Heart how often the It's No Secret photography came up, though.
Yeah, they use that.
Quite annoying to me, but anyway, there you go.
Exactly.
All these years later, it still doesn't sit flush.
Well, yeah, you'd think that they would have used something that was more current, but I think that's also something to do with the timing. Sometimes the record companies just don't have the time, and they have to get to press quickly because they want a chart position, and they just use what's available to them when they don't have the time for it.
Now, this is nice, isn't it? Especially for you.
Especially for you, yeah. And the B on the flip side there, it's a nice little image of Kylie and Jason playing around there.
Does it have All I Want to Do on it?
Yes, All I Want to Do Is Make You Mine.
Yeah.
There's the flip side.
Can I just see, did they spell especially right there? Because it's a little bit blurry. Is especially? Yeah. Okay, cool. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I forget.
You're picking on the Japanese, Tim. They do get it wrong sometimes. Their translation is. Here's a great little one. This was only released in Japan. Turn It Into Love as a single.
Ah, yes.
It
was number one for a long time there too.
Yeah. I think it was like 9 weeks at number one.
Something ridiculous amount of time. Yeah.
She's an artist to do so well in the Japanese chart. So she was definitely at her peak.
I'm pretty sure it was the only territory that was released in too.
Yeah. As commercially, that's correct. Yeah.
Now, what is that?
Locomotion, Japanese single. Isn't that cool? That's really cool.
Gee, that's so manga art. Beautiful, isn't it?
I love the unique, like the pictures that they use on the B-sides of her artwork in Japan and all that sort of stuff. They're images you don't get to see on, many other pieces. So here's It's No Secret. So It's No Secret was released in Japan, but this is the unique cover that they had.
Wonderful.
And that's the B-side there. Has Look My Way as the B-side.
Yeah, so look at that. That was Word Is Out ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Sort of. That's amazing.
Yeah, there's some great images there, actually. And that's actually worth quite a bit too. You look at about $300-400 for that, if you can track that one down. Her first single in Japan, I Should Be So Lucky.
Yeah, this always interested me because we had such a different single cover in Australia. But this was pretty common in territories, this image. Yeah.
But the flip side, have a look at the flip side in Japan.
Oh, wow. I know that photo. That's right.
That's like something out of Smash Hits.
Yeah, a lot of rock and roll in that. Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. I think that was one of the things I liked most about this one was the back cover.
Yeah, it really doesn't suit I Should Be So Lucky at all, does it, that image?
No.
Not sweet at all. Oh, now we say no more about this photo shoot. One of probably her most famous or infamous, let's say infamous photo shoots ever. Yeah. Oh, please tell me she's doing the pointy thing on the back.
No.
Oh, disappointing.
Lyrics.
There's a shame.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh,
but
wow.
and they're quite interesting. Those CDs. They crop up every now and then. Some of the more common ones, but it's the rarer ones that set you back a bit. So. Yeah, so that's just a small part of my Kylie collection. There's a lot there that I get excited about, but if I had to point out ones that I find more interesting, they're the ones that you just saw.
Fantastic to do it again and look at more of your Kylie collection, because I know you've got so much. Where do you store it all? Do you have like a walk-in wardrobe? What do you do?
I wish. Yeah, no. There's a couple of places. So I do have a storage place that I keep them at.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's just I don't have the space for everything. So some of them are stored here, and some of them are stored in another location. And they're stored in boxes, so like airtight boxes, sealed in their bags, all that sort of stuff. Basically, just trying to make sure that they retain their condition, and don't age anymore. So it just takes a little bit of time to pack them well and all that sort of stuff, and put them in great storage to make sure they're looked after.
I'm going to let you go, but I do want to know this because I don't want to make an assumption. Why do you collect? What is it? What do you get out of it?
The thrill of hunting and finding something that I really want and then acquiring it. And it's that search and that drive and the exploration and, trying to call people from all angles of the world or contact different dealers or, do your search. I think it's that journey that you go on, and then when you find that item and it finally arrives in the mail and you get it and you go, it's a sense of accomplishment,
Wow,
you know.
that
So,
satisfaction, like a last piece of a jigsaw puzzle almost.
yeah, it's
An eternal jigsaw puzzle.
it is a bit like that. The jigsaw puzzle, though, keeps growing, unfortunately. But I liken it to almost like an Indiana Jones trek and hunt, you know, for those rarities, those collectibles that you go through many different things to track down that item that you really want, and and then get that thrill when you finally receive it. So, yeah.
Thanks, buddy. That's amazing. It really was. Wow.